Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tabernacle Township Committee meeting. Please stand for a flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of February the 12th, 2018 was included on the list of notices sent to the Central Record, Burlington County Times, and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, and has remained continuously posted as required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice season has been available to the public, and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. We have roll call. Ms. Brown. Mr. Franzen.
Here.
Mr. Lee. Mr. Yates.
Here.
Mayor Barton.
Present. Before we do the public comment, for those of you who are Eagles fans, congratulations after 42 years. And for those who are not, which we do have fans from other teams that reside amongst us, I can tell you that all the ones that I know are fans from other teams were also rooting for us. And it was a great time. And you know, one of the lessons I learned from this was the quarterback situation when Carson Wentz went down. He was going to probably be the MVP in the NFL. And Nick Foles stepped in. And it just shows that we're all replaceable. And what a job he did when he stepped in. And so we'll see how it goes into the future. We did have a championship in 1960. I was alive at that time. I think Mr. Franzen was here, but nobody seems to count that. So congratulations to Mr. Lurie, to Doug Peterson, and all the Eagles. And it was just fun to see everybody celebrate. It was fun to go to Nixon's and see all the green and the stuff that he had for sale. And hopefully all the businesses enjoyed a booming business on Super Bowl Sunday. And unfortunately, I wasn't here. I was out of state, but I understand we had an accident which could have been fatal, but it wasn't. So thank you to the rescue squad, the EMS, and to the fire company for taking care of that situation. And hopefully they'll get the school back to normal and the kids can get back in that school. It's just a miracle when I went by there the other day that it wasn't a fatality. And as you know, it wasn't that long ago you all were out there for that triple fatality. So thank you for what you do. And with that, we're going to take public comment. Now, before we take public comment, under old business, we have discussion on a public safety director position and a request for proposal / contract for EMS. Mrs. Brown and Deputy Mayor Lee are not here, so we will not discuss it amongst ourselves, but we will welcome public testimony on your thoughts on each of those subjects. So when we get to those, you will have an opportunity to voice your opinion on this. So we're going to open it to the public on agenda items, and I am going to add one more agenda item that our attorney prepared for us. It's going to be Resolution 2018-38, and this has to do with litigation in Superior Court, docket number BUR/L/1198-17, which is Fran Brooks plaintiff versus the Township of Tabernacle and Sean R. Barber, and there was a settlement agreed to, and our attorney has prepared a resolution which we will vote on at that time. That will be the last item under our new business. So that will be added so we can vote on that, and there's no need to go into executive session for that. It's all public knowledge, and we'll settle that. With that, public comment, and there are copies here. If anyone wants to see them, you're welcome to come up. I have plenty of copies. It will be the last resolution we'll be dealing with tonight. Anybody want copies? Jim?
I'll get it in a minute. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Brooks, you want a copy?
Yes, I'll come up though. I'll
Okay.
make some comments. I'll get it done.
So we're
Thank
going to
you.
open up to the public. Anyone from the public comment on agenda items? Jim?
Jim Jones, 16 Wilmington Way. It's unfortunate that Ms. Brown is really not here. I want to talk about 6B, and in particular the RFP/Q or whatever the thing is called now. And I want to read this right.
Could you speak up a little bit, please? beginning, it looks like?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure everyone else can hear.
As a former member of 2 emergency squads, 439 and 317 for over 16 years, and now as a patient in the back of an ambulance, I fully believe that you're about to make a serious mistake, one that will have irreversible consequences for the residents of Tabernacle, people passing through, and people who are asking for help. You're making a mistake that cannot be measured in dollars, and when it fails to adequately provide the desired required services, it will be impossible to recover, thus effectively telling Township residents that we don't count. I say this for what may be one of the 2 proposals, the first being replace TRS, and the second is being a money grab to try to balance a budget on the back of the TRS volunteers. I believe the latter is a moral and ethical disaster. There's a time when money is secondary. Do you want to be one of those who did not receive the best of emergency pre-hospital care because you decided to grab the money? Additionally, if you're honest about what this thing is, what's transpired around this thing, then you have to admit that this thing has already aggravated the rift between fire and rescue. So much for pouring oil on the troubled waters of Holland. You poured oil and effectively lit it. I can legitimately discuss the seriousness of my concerns and comments since I needed an ambulance at 3 o'clock Saturday morning. I knew that when I placed that 911 call, I was going to get a white box with blue stripes on the side of it in my driveway in very short order, and that the crew would be very well-trained volunteers who cared about me. It was not going to be some unknown group to whom I might be nothing more than a billing exercise. The call was made because I did not believe that I could take a walk to the car, even with assistance, or from the car to the ER. As it turned out, the call resulted in an 11-day stay in the hospital. I think the experience made it a 911 call for that reason. I will always be grateful to the members of TRS for their being there when I needed help. And they didn't know who I was. It was just a street address until a crew came in and I recognized Roseanne Gunselman. We go back to the 80s in the squad. If you keep pushing this thing, and by this I'm either the money grab or trying to replace the squad, then I hope that none of you will need an ambulance, because I'm not sure that you're going to get one, what you need in a timely manner. I noticed the RFPQ was listed as old business. That would be probably related to the surprise memo Ms. Brown found in her folder. The same one that Peter Lang said he prepared as requested. When questioned who requested it, appeared that no one on the committee had the intestinal fortitude to fess up and told Mr. Lang to do it. And I resent that. It's supposed to be open. Somebody asked Mr. Lang to do something. Okay, fine. People ought to stand up and say, hey, I did it. I think that Mr. Lang's a smart enough lawyer and judge to know that he would not prepare that kind of document and bill for it without direction. I can only guess who provided that direction. And yet, whoever did it was so proud of their stealth methodology that they not see fit to take credit for it. And I resent that too. Again, open government. I see this thing as now an RFQ. The 2 documents are quite different. You should know that. Q has to be very specific as to what you want, whereas the P gives the responder some leeway and what they're prepared to offer. So who created the details of the request, or is that awaiting the Director of Public Safety appointment? When the RFQ or P is released to the proposed vendors, can I presume that it will be made available to the public? Or will someone try to obscure what's happening? And then how long will the offerees have to respond? I have some additional questions, about 9 or 10 of them, but it's got a lot more time than I have now. So I'll bring them up post-agenda. I now know that you're not going to be taking action on those tonight, so I won't be too late. Maybe, if I bring them up later, it'll be on the record. I'm also going to snail mail Mrs. Barber the question, so it'll be part of the formal record, so that anybody who wants to take a look can go for before anybody approves the minutes and before the minutes. And I got to tell you, I don't get spun up about things very often, but I'm sure as hell spun up about this. Both either the grab for the money, because I don't think it's going to balance any budget, and you will do it on the backs of the volunteers. And as a volunteer, I would resent that. Those people across the road here know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a hell of a long time, and they've only gotten better. 24/7. When I was a member of the squad, these hours were from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. 7 days a week. The rest of it was catch as catch can. People over there put a rig on the road 24/7, virtually 100% of the time, and I'm guessing they could probably put a second rig if they needed to. Don't destroy something that's working. That squad is a polished diamond in the state, in the county, and in this town. Please don't mess with it, because I hope nobody in here needs an ambulance and finds out it's not available. Not because they quit, but because somebody put another paid organization in to do some of this stuff. And where the hell's that ambulance coming from? Are they going to park it in the building, or are they going to respond from somewhere else? If they need a second rig, are they going to respond to that from somewhere else, or are they going to put a rig back in the village? You got too many questions to be doing this kind of stuff. It's not well thought out, and as a person in the town who's used the squad now, which was an interesting experience because I never thought I'd be in the back of one of those boxes as a patient. It was always as an EMT. You don't have the experience, you ought not be trying to wreck this thing. I mean, it's just not going to work. And I'll fight that tooth and nail. And I don't care who hears it or who disagrees with me. I will not give up. It's too important to me, my family, the people I know in this town, and to you guys because it may be you that needs that box.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about raving, but I'm on the soapbox.
Do you want to do this one?
No, I'll get it to her later.
Okay.
I got them not in letter format yet.
Anyone else from the public like to comment on the agenda items? Mrs. Brooks?
Fran Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. One thing I wanted to clarify, on the agenda it has in B, EMS RFQ/contract. The word contract, does that refer to the contract that you were discussing back in 2017, or is it directly tied to the RFQ that we're talking about submitting?
Well, this committee has not made a decision on which way it's going to go yet, whether we're going to do a contract or whether we're going to do a request for proposal. So I listed both so that both can be discussed.
I see, but you're not going to be discussing it today because there are two people.
Amongst of ourselves, no. We're just going to accept public testimony on the topics that are listed, Mrs. Brooks.
Okay. Well, obviously, I hold a position that you should put out for an RFQ. I'm a little bit taken back by Mr. Jones's comments because I hate to think if he needs a squad outside of Tabernacle to talk about these professionals, professional EMTs, as being billing exercise, acting as billing exercises or money grabs. That's just so insulting because squads are professionally trained and are trained to act as professionals no matter where they practice. So I think it's very important that you get an idea of, you get some RFPs or FQs in order to find out exactly how you can help the residents with regard to ambulance services. So I really do support you putting out an RFQ or an RFP in order to solicit those services. And let's do some real research here. I also have a question if you're going to be using, for example, I received a copy of, having gotten a copy of Mr. Lang's document. He had a Mount Holly contract in there, or Mount Holly RFP, or RFQ, whatever you're calling it. And that was a pretty extensive document. So that is certainly a decent model if you are going to put out a proposal. The other thing that I want to talk about is Mr. Jones is talking about, and no insult to you, Mr. Jones, but you're talking about transparency. And, I don't remember people getting up and talking about the hidden chalkboard presentations that were supported by Mrs. Brown back a year and a half ago, where she was able to obtain all sorts of hidden information about the insurance billings or the budget of the squad. I don't remember anyone from the public objecting to those chalkboard presentations, which were totally hidden and totally secretive. But Mrs. Brown was quite, and I really don't like talking without her being present, but I'm going to go forward since Mr. Jones brought it up. But certainly she was appalled about the report, but that's a little bit of hypocrisy on her part, given the hidden and secretive manner in which committee members acted with regard to the squad. So if there's to be accountability, there has to be accountability on all sides and transparency on all sides. So, and my third point is that I think the committee is more than capable making an informed decision about ambulance services. I don't think that because you have an existing service that it's the only service in the world, in South Jersey, that can provide very competent, very professional services. So I ask you to really consider what you're going to, the RFQ and the criteria within RFQ. And the only other thing that I was wondering about, there was an older draft for the public safety director position in the box over there, but not the new one, which I did receive today. And I'm wondering if that's going to be available also tonight. I don't know if you're going to be talking about it, but I don't know. Were you going to make that available?
Actually, it should be attached to it.
There are two that are attached? Okay, I didn't actually see it. And you didn't need to have an executive session to approve the settlement? That didn't have to be done in a meeting?
We did have an executive session.
When was that? At the last meeting, the January 22nd meeting? You agreed to the settlement?
I'm not going to get into what we did in executive session. Ms. Brooks, I'm sure you understand why, but we did have an executive session.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else with public comment on agenda items? Mr. Brown?
Hi, how you doing? Ralph Schramm, 12 Hidden Acres Drive. And Mayor, I know you're going to have a hearing on each of these items, but since Mr. Jones let us out of the gate here, I agree with most of what he had to say. I think outsourcing could be a very bad idea and one you would come to regret. But I really, more than anything, I want to set the record on something. I never had any intention of suing this township committee. I think it would be an outrageous waste of taxpayers' money. That's why I went through the Government Records Council. That's why I said I would mediate. The only other thing I want to say is, a year and a half ago, I stood here and I asked if this was, I did this more tactfully, I think, but is this a money grab? And nobody answered my question. But that's what it looks like to me now, and it bothers me. The memo, I read it, thank you. I originally, because you released it as was, no redactions. I read it, I understand what you're considering. We've got a few options there. It's a problem all over Burlington County. I mean, you have a problem when people don't want to volunteer anymore. They don't want to take months of training and what have you and join a fire company or a rescue squad. It's a shame, but it's just the nature of the beast. I just feel, you have a squad with a near-perfect record of response. I think they're good people. I've had occasion twice in my 25 years here to call upon them, and they were fabulous. So that's where I'm at. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Ralph, I want to thank you for the way you handled the situation. And personally, it's not a money grab. It's still, like I should say, it's a fact finding. We want to see what the public has to offer, what they want, what they're looking for, what information they can give us, what we can gather to make a solid decision. But it truly is not a money grab.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, we close the public portion on agenda items. And we're going to move on to approval of the bills.
I'll make the motion to approve adding the two that were added tonight to the list.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes. Okay, under new business, 2018-36, approving a raffle license and bingo license applications for Seneca Fair Group.
So moved.
Second.
Peter, do we have to, because the school is in our town and our children go to the school, do we have to treat this as a divine thing, or is there any conflict with us voting on this, or we're okay?
No, I don't see any personal conflict that would arise out of the fact that everyone's children attends that school district. It's rather a perfunctory duty, I think. And again, the standard is there a personal or pecuniary conflict or personal interest, and I just don't see that. in the context of a raffle.
Okay, thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. 2018-37, approving a raffle license application for Church of the Holy Eucharist.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
This is what we do have to.
We do.
Now here, members may have a personal interest related to their church, to the extent that I know that many of you do have that conflict and it would result in an inability to act. The courts have expressed a desire in such matters for the conflict to be waived and to go forward and act, and I would argue that that necessity arises again in this context.
Roll call?
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. And before we do this resolution 2018-38, and Ralph, you brought up about the General Records Council, and Mr. Strong put in a HOPA request for the information that Mr. Lang provided to this committee, and originally was denied by Mrs. Barber, our clerk. Ralph followed one of two processes. You can either go file in Superior Court and file a lawsuit against the township, which we have to hire our attorney. If the applicant was to prevail, we would have to cover their legal costs. In this case, Mr. Straub took the second option, which is available to everyone, and I would encourage everyone in this township to follow that process, which is to go to the General Records Council, make an application to them. He did that. We took a look at that. We reconsidered. We released the information. If we had denied the information, he still had the right to take it to Superior Court and file a lawsuit against us. So I bring that up because we get a lot of OPA requests in this town, and I spend at least a half a day in this town hall, and Mrs. Barber, every time I am here, is actively working on OPA requests. And the OPA requests that are denied, and if there is a lawsuit and we are found to be wrong, or we admit we're wrong, then we have to pay that other side. So I would encourage everyone to follow. They have the right to go either way, but I would encourage them to follow the General Records Council. In this case, with Mr. Strong, it proved that it does work. With that, we're going to approve Resolution 2018, a resolution of the Tabernacle Township approving settlement of litigation. Could I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Okay, old business. Discussion on Public Safety Director position specifications. We had asked as a committee for our administrator to prepare position specifications, which he did, which copies available. And then I prepared one myself. Neither of them are the final document. This committee has to decide what that position is going to look like, what the responsibilities, the duties, and qualifications are going to be. So, since there's only 3 of us here tonight and all 5 aren't here, we are not going to act on it, but we will take public testimony on the Public Safety Director position, the specification specifically. If anybody would like to comment, please come up, and you have 3 minutes. Mrs. Brooks?
Fran Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. It seems a little bit, since nobody really has had any time to digest the information, it's a bit difficult to make specific recommendations or comments on it. The only thing that I would say is that the original version, which is the working draft, and yes, the 2 copies were together, but it was hard to know that because it's only on the bottom, but it was hard to know that Mr. Barton's draft was actually attached. It would just be helpful to put the information at the top of the page. But I would say that the original draft included an emergency management coordinator and a GIF safety coordinator. Who is the GIF safety coordinator? Doug, are you the GIF safety?
Colonel Lowe.
Colonel Lowe is. Okay, so, and the second draft is just exclusively a public safety director. It seems to me that since you're looking for a part-time person, combining the OEM positions with the public safety director position seems to be a lot more than a part-time job. And I couldn't project, but I think it would be difficult to find somebody to take both positions. And I would recommend, one of the things that I did note that I think is a good idea, and that is to not make it a requirement that someone from Tabernacle, a person from Tabernacle Township or a resident of Tabernacle Township be the criterion for the public safety director. There should be a much wider search throughout the county. But I would argue that it's probably better to keep those two positions separate. I think there was discussion some months ago about the position being exclusively a public safety director position and not combine it with an OEM position. Without having more time to look at this, because I didn't get it till the end of the day, I really can't specifically comment on the individual points of it, but I think it's also we're going to need somebody who has experience and is able to work with two disparate groups that have had long-held conflicts in order to address issues. And I too disagree that this is a money grab. I think it's time for the residents of Tabernacle to get an understanding of the contributions, the financial contribution that would help decrease our costs, especially any tax increases that might be envisioned in the future. So hopefully I'll get a little more time to review what we distributed. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. Anyone else from the public? No one? Okay. Anyone want to comment on the emergency services request for proposal or contract? No? Okay. Okay. Under old business, our Judge Adovisi is retiring, and we need to authorize our municipal court to advertise for the unexpired term of municipal court judge from April to December of 2018. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A roll call?
Thank you. Mr. Franson?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Okay, reports. Mr. Guzzi?
Just one quick thing, Ms. Barber was kind enough to remind me that the maintenance bond for 2015 park improvements with the dugouts that we had done several years ago, maintenance bond is coming due later this spring, so we'll be going out and doing an inspection in case there's any items that need to be taken care of, and prepare a report and get the contractor out there to deal with anything, and probably have something for your April and May meeting to formally release that maintenance bond. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dan. Mr. Kramer?
Over the storms over the weekend, we've had some damage to the bank that goes up to the tennis courts, and we're working with Dan's office to resolve that. Did wash out a portion of the walking path, and we'll be working on that with him. Peter is working on putting together the legal agreement with Lakewood Township for the grader. I have talked to Woodland Township. They thanked us for thinking of them, but they are not going to be interested in the purchase of our old grader. And I am working with Southampton Township, but that is not finalized yet, also about a shared service. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Lang?
Mr. Mayor, I just was going to amplify what Mr. Kramer mentioned with respect to Lakewood. We did clear up some issues with their solicitor, talking to their public works people. It appears that they're going to deliver it here, right? We're going to handle that in the agreement. I did ask that he provide approval of our resolution and contract before I present it to you. So we're waiting for that. We should have it ready for the 26th and get that grader removed. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
My turn?
Committee Yates?
I really don't have anything other than I would just like to reiterate that this truly is not a money grab. We really want the input from the public for the public safety director position, with the contract for the EMS. What we're looking for, we value your opinion, we value the input you give us, and it really truly does help us make a decision up here. We don't want you to just look at us thinking our minds are made up, because they truly aren't. My mind's not made up, and I'm still chairman of the committee. So I want the input. He didn't give it to us tonight. Hopefully the mayor opens it up at the next meeting so we can get more input from him. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I wanted to tag on and add to what you were saying about Oprah requests. It's just always been troublesome to me that the law does not mandate that you go through the Government Records Council first. And I know at one point in time there were some changes recommended to the state law around that would have done that, but they never went through. And as it stands right now, I mean, people can and do cost this township tens of thousands of dollars because they decide that they're going to go right to a court and sue us over something, rather than go through a Government Records Council. And as the mayor said, even if you go through the Government Records Council and you're not happy with that outcome, or it doesn't seem to satisfy you in some way, you still have that opportunity to go to court. So, as Joe said, my hat's off to Mr. Schramm in handling this in a responsible way that didn't cost taxpayers money. And I throw out my wish that anyone else involved in Oprah situations wouldn't mind doing the same thing to save the taxpayers a little bit of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. The only thing, I had a few things to report on. Number one, at the last meeting, we had mentioned that we were going to be looking at merging the court, and I was supposed to be part of that committee with Committeeman Francis and Administrator Kramer. I'm going to step aside from that, and Deputy Mayor Lee is going to take my place with you, Rick, on that. So they'll be meeting with surrounding communities and see if there's an opportunity, as our judge retires, to be able to merge courts and do it in a better fashion that's a little more economical for us. Also, when I was in the town hall a few weeks ago, Sean informed me that Dr. Stahl is going to be retiring, and he's providing services to us. Sean, 25 years? How many years? At least 20 years at no cost. We're really indebted for what he has done. I don't think we're going to be able to get another vet to take his place under those terms and conditions. But in order to provide him recognition, what I went to ask the committee tonight, and this is something that Sean brought up, that at the park at Prickett's Mill, to put a bench and put his name on that bench. And if the three of us could agree to do that, I would ask our administrator, Mr. Kramer, to find a bench, find a suitable location, get a name tag on it, and dedicate the bench to him for his years of service to Tabernacle Township. And we'll also prepare a proclamation for him.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, great idea.
Okay. Well, Sean, thanks for bringing it up. He is a very humble man, so he's probably not going to want to appear in front of us, but we'll recognize him properly in that way.
Maybe he'll sit on the bench.
Very good. Okay. Also, we received a notice from the county, and the county has a Veterans Affairs Department. And in Burlington County, we have a nonprofit called the Burlington County Military Affairs Committee, which was founded many, many years by Ed Kelly, and I'm not sure, was he the clerk at that time? He was a clerk along with Congressman Saxton. And at the time, it was because they were realigning the bases. It was to have an organization that could speak for the county and the business community so that the base was not closed. And they've been instrumental over probably close to 30 years now. I've been a former board member. I used to chair their Armed Forces Freedom Ride, which raised quite a bit of funds for them. And they're up for an award, and it's called the Abilene Trophy Award. And they asked that we as a township that we send a letter of recommendation for them to receive this award. It's a pretty prestigious award, and so what I have prepared, I prepared a communication, and I just want to make sure the committee's okay, because it represents the committee. It represents that we support what BMAC does. We support Joint Base McGuire Lakehurst, that many of the enlisted and employees of the base reside in our town. And we have one of them here tonight. And so it's just a letter that's going to go to hopefully help push them over the top that they can get this award. So I just want to make it clear what it's about. And if Rick, you and Joe have no objection, I'll sign this as the mayor, but it does represent the township committee. So we'll get that off to them and in the mail for that. Okay, other than that, that's all I have. Public comment on any other open items? Mrs. Brooks?
My husband was here tonight. Fran Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. I find your comments about Oprah and the GRC relatively interesting. There are, for one, it's not cost-free to go to the GRC. That's number one. There is time put in by Mr. Lang because I have the documents. So surely we're going to be charged for those activities. It also, whether a document, a request is, the documents are provided by the clerk, depends on the decision the clerk makes. Now, I know in the past, and I'm only commenting now publicly, in the past there are numerous times when I've been denied requests and I've asked for reconsideration and haven't received any reconsideration from the clerk or from the committee. I happen to notice that in the documents that I received that Ms. Barber was very generous in saying she was going to take Mr. Schramm's request back to the committee to reconsider, something she's never done for me, and I don't want to make it personal. There's also a number of cases where the committee could have settled for a lot less money. I'm thinking about the brick case. That was a complaint that ended up in court costing residents almost $50,000 when we offered to settle the case for $300. And that $300 settlement was rejected by the committee. So it just depends on what you're talking about, and the devil is in the details. What I'd like to know is I submitted a request for the exact same document that Mr. Schramm requested, and I was denied. I didn't follow through on it because, generally speaking, the issue of privilege is very difficult. But given what, and I recognize what Mr. Schramm did, but since I applied for, I submitted a request, you denied me, but then you decided to give the document to Mr. Schramm. What changed in that time? Can you please possibly explain what happened between my denial and Mr. Schramm's decision to give the document to Mr. Schramm?
I can explain it if you want.
I'm speaking to the committee.
Okay.
Thank you. I just mean, no, Ralph, I think this is a committee question, not a question from the requester. Is that funny? I don't know what's funny.
I'll recognize Mr. Strong if you'd like to speak.
Is that
No,
all
I
right?
think it's a committee decision.
No, I'm recognizing Mr. Strong.
After the request was denied, I filled out the appeal, and I gave them reasoning in the appeal. I wrote out my reasoning
saw it.
why
I saw it.
why I thought it should be a public document.
Yeah, I saw it.
And it went back, it went to the GRC.
I understand.
They asked me if I'd be willing to mediate if they denied it, which is a step before you even get to a lawsuit. I said I would. In fact, I said it up front. But they, in view of the fact that I laid out my case and they got an email, I guess it was an email or a letter from the GRC explaining my case, so it went back to the committee. And that's all I can tell you. All right? I had no interest in going to court.
Well, I never had any interest in going to court either. It's the decisions made by the clerk, the custodian of records, and this committee. So,
Mrs. Brooks, I would say, Mrs. Brooks, that it was a mistake on our part that if we were going to give it to Mr. Strong and anyone else had made the request, we should have given it to them also. And I apologize that you didn't get it, but in the future we'll be more conscious of that, that if someone makes an open request that's denied, and there's multiple requests, that if we decide to give that document, we should give it to everyone that made the request. That's just reasonable.
okay, and I appreciate that, Mayor. The other issue that I'd like to raise is that document that Mr. Lang provided to the committee should never have been, my request should have never been denied. Those were, when I looked at those documents, they were clearly public record. Clearly public record. A contract from Mount Holly, an RFQ, that's a public record. And as far as your analysis, there wasn't any analysis, it was just a description. That too, and it's as you said, Mr. Lang, at the meeting, when this was raised by Mrs. Brown, and at the meeting, you responded by saying, we've discussed these issues, at one time or another. That was an admission that those were public records, and it should have never been withheld from the beginning. And I could have challenged it, but I just let it go. Because eventually I knew that it would all surface. So I think that there should be the entrenched response, often by the clerk and possibly committee members, and the attorney, township attorney, needs to be reviewed, because there are a lot of documents that I do ask for that are denied, and I don't bother going after them, because eventually they surface one way or another. So I would appreciate you, it's as you say, Mayor, to look at things more directly and in greater detail, so that you understand, so that you completely have control of the information. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the public? Mr. Jones?
Jim Jones, 16 Lumberton Way. First of all, thank you for letting me bring it. It's something I'm very, very involved in.
Passionate.
That is the right word, passionate.
You're very passionate.
And I appreciate what you're saying about trying to find the right answers. But some of the questions that need to be asked, if, for instance, you're thinking about going down the path of maybe replacing the people over 439. In spite of what some people in the audience may think, an EMT is not an EMT. You go through school and you learn all this basic stuff, and you get your EMT certificate that says, New Jersey says you're a great guy, good, go out and do an EMT things. But in the event of rescues out of motor vehicles, it's 5 years minimum. TRS has set up their own training set of how to do it so that the patient is protected. That's rule number one, do no harm. The second rule is take care of yourself, make sure you don't become part of the problem. But you can't expect somebody who is just riding in an ambulance as an EMT who's going to have that experience or expertise. And even, this isn't a knock on the fire company by any stretch of the imagination, this is not intentional. They don't have that training either right now. So who's going to do rescue if you bring somebody in from outside? If you have a call and the source goes out, what happens if you get a second call? Where's that rig going to come from? Is it going to be brought into the building and be local for the time being? Or is it going to respond from Cherry Hill, or I'm being sarcastic here, Philadelphia, or some other place with the attendant delays, which could be very difficult in a life and death situation? Granted, most of the EMT calls are not life and death. Mine was not. But if you got a guy with a heart attack or a stroke or something like that, minutes make a difference. You need to have that capability present in the township. If there's a working fire, and I think this is still true, that on a working fire you put 2 rigs on the scene. One to do the standby in case somebody gets hurt, and one to transport if you have somebody hurt, so that the fire guys and everybody else that's on the scene have protection. You're going to have to handle that. How are you going to do that? How will mutual aid be handled? And I know somebody in the back here, Mrs. Brooks in particular, doesn't seem to understand fully what mutual aid means. Mutual aid means life. If they were unable to get out, or maybe they needed 3 or 4 rigs to get out, and they couldn't man them, and that would not be due to any deficiency on their part. The people are not in the town to be able to do that. They'll get a first or second rig out. because you may need somebody from Southampton or Chemung or Woodland or some other place to provide that additional rig. How are you going to handle that? Because I'm pretty sure that if we have a paid company in here, that we're probably not going to really be too interested in doing mutual aid to Chemung or Woodland or Southampton. And I think they're going to be equally responsive in that they're probably not going to be too interested in helping us either. So again, how are we going to keep the capability alive at the time so that you can get an ambulance someplace you need one and save some lives? I had an ATV accident out in the middle of the pine there, and we know that doesn't happen, right? Are these guys that are part of the paid squad that we brought in here, are they going to go out there in their ambulance into the woods? I'm pretty sure they're not equipped to handle salt and sand. So who's going to do it? The fire company got to put one of their trucks out there. And quite frankly, I don't know if you've got a truck that you could put out there that could transport a patient or not. I just don't know. Maybe you do, in which case it would be great. But where are you going to get people to do that? Where are you going to get the equipment to do that? And I know these guys have gone out to pick people up and find us. We did it when I was part of the squad. We got up and found out somebody had done CPR for 20 minutes. They didn't bother to tell us that before we left the road. So, there's just a whole lot of things that have to go into this. Before you make a decision that says, hey, we're going to try to work with the paid squad, or we're not. And I don't see how you're going to do it. Like I said, these guys work miracles every day. They provide us 7/24 or 24/7, 365, guaranteed rig, 2 probably. You're not going to get that with a paid group. I don't know how you can contract that kind of thing and expect to have people in town to provide that immediate service. It's just, providing EMS is difficult at best.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you.
We were a little remiss. Under reports, we neglected to put our OEM coordinator who wanted to be on the agenda. I apologize, Carmelo. Would you like to come up and give us a report, please, before we...
Am I talking as the OEM or as a resident of Tabernacle? Because I want to talk twice.
Okay, well then, first you need...
Or you want to just do the OEM stuff real quick?
First you need to do the OEM stuff, then you can speak as a resident.
William Little, OEM, the Emergency Management Coordinator. This is purely for information. This is the LEPC for 2018. All these people have been contacted, and they either agreed or they didn't come back and say, I won't do it, so they got appointed anyway. And so I operate in a democratic society, and silence is consent. The second document is the dates of meetings for the LEPC, the safety committee, since I'm the safety officer, and the CERT, which I am not a member of, but which I oversee, guide, and mobilize and train. And speaking of the CERT, this last document is the annual report for the CERT for 2017. I find this fascinating. We had 51 events, 1,938 hours, provided by 61 people. Where those people reside, I have absolutely no idea, but they reside somewhere in the county. What's fascinating about the CERT is that these people get absolutely nothing except the recognition that we give them and the fact that they get to participate. And we train them. They are not, I would venture to say that if you ask the people that are on the register ready, and during the snowstorm, register ready, all the people in the township have registered to say that in an emergency they would need assistance. During the windstorm, the CERT went out and visited every single one of them. All right? When we brought the AmeriCorps team in, the CERT went with the AmeriCorps and visited every single resident of Tabernacle to talk about preparedness. And of course, at the tree lighting ceremony, half of the security that was there, half of the support that was here was provided by the CERT. No one asked those people where they lived. No one cared where they lived. All they cared about was that they were there. I would submit to you that if you asked the residents of Tabernacle, they would not think that we were picking their pockets for their dire tax spending for those people that were doing the kind of things that you had there. I would submit that to you.
And thank you for your service and the CERT also. And Colonel, could you leave the extra copies with our clerk?
Yes, I will leave all
Somebody
those.
from the public would like copies so that they're made available.
Yes, I'd be more than happy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
My last action is that effective 1st of April, I am withdrawing from township service. I will no longer be the emergency management coordinator. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your help. I did put together a list of all the things that I thought that were neat that I did while I was here. I am not going to read that. I was going to read it. I am not going to read it. It's been a hoot. I really have enjoyed it. And the last thing I'd like to say to you is this. I spent 30 years in uniform, in the Army. During that time, I did nothing. The only thing I did was convince young soldiers to go out and do things that nobody in his right mind would do, and do willingly. That's it. I served with a lot of heroes. I am not consider myself in their category. The last 12 years, I have served the Township of Tabernacle. I would not tell you that I know anything about putting water on fires, putting Band-Aids on patients, nor plowing roads. But I have served in the last 12 years with some heroes. And those heroes I put down as even higher than the ones in the military. The ones in the military got paid for that. They did it, they did their job, they went away, they did 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it might be, they went home. These guys and gals that serve in emergency services, albeit the CERT, the fire company, the rescue squad, public works, they do it every day, 365 days a year, forever. And get what? Recognition, some money, maybe, a patch. What do they get out of it? Be very, very careful when you come to the point where you want to break that. They are not an ambulance service, although they transport. They are not a fire company. The fire company is not a rescue squad per se, the same way as the rescue squad. They don't care about patients. Be careful about how you break the fire company, because the fire company needs help. But don't ever forget about the fact that these are heroes. Would you stand and try to put out a fire when it's freezing and the water's freezing to you? Would you want to pull a couple of burned bodies out of a vehicle? Would you want to do that? Would you want to get up in the middle of the night and plow these streets? Be careful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. The Colonel's too humble, but I will read the accomplishments that he did point out. So Colonel Love was appointed in June of 2005. 25 FEMA projects based upon presidential declarations, receiving and returning to Tabernacle over $300,000. 10 plus local desummerations of emergency coordinating township emergency services in response to recovery from emergency situations. 40 plus incident action plans coordinating Tabernacle emergency services in response to non-emergency situations. Developed first community emergency response teams in the county. Currently, the Pineland CERT is one of the largest, best trained and active CERTs in the state. As a part of the overall scope of the program, over 150 Tabernacle residents have been trained on how to take care of their families, neighbors, and community in an emergency. Developed a resident emergency notification system for Tabernacle, which became the model for the county. Planned, trained on and exercised in training and real-world situations a point-of distribution system that became the model for the county and the state. Established and executed emergency preparedness training for other OEMs, private and public groups, as well as the U.S. Military Civil Affairs School at McGuire Dick Lakehurst. Developed, coordinated, and presented a large animal rescue training program for emergency organizations in the county in concert with the New Jersey Trail Riders Association. Developed, planned, coordinated, and oversaw the execution of an evacuation and sheltering plan for the Tabernacle School District. Served as operations officer for the Berrien County OEM contingent supporting the Pope's visit, of which Fireman Cirque was a key element, and I did see them in Philadelphia on that day, Colonel. Coordinated and supported 5 missing persons drills and real-world events, of which the Fireman Cirque was a key element. Coordinated Tabernacle's participation in the Register Ready program overseen by the New Jersey DOH during one emergency. This listing was utilized by CERT PRS teams to visit all listed residents. Hosted an American Corps team, which with the visited all residents in Tabernacle with emergency information. Coordinated and published 4 editions of the Tabernacle Emergency Operation Plans, 3 hazard mitigation plans, and the Wildlife Management Plan. Recognized by the Berrien County OEM and FEMA as having an exceptions emergency management program. Colonel, the list is long, and you served us distinguishedly. And I believe when I saw your guys, they were in Camden. They were not in Philadelphia.
That's correct.
But it was part of the Pope's visit. But we thank you for your service, and thank you for what you have accomplished. And it will be properly recognized at a later date.
Thank you.
And while you will be hard to replace, hopefully, you've set the bar, and we can find someone that can take that a little bit further. Did you have anything from the public portion that you want to talk about?
William Lowe, 24 Acres Drive, Tabernacle, New Jersey. On 1976, my son was born with congenital birth defect, which meant he was immediately put into Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. He stayed there for 2.5 years. At the end of that period, it's very difficult to talk. At the end of that period, we said, or they told us, he would never walk, talk, be off the respirator, ventilator, whatever. We said, fine, we're going to take him home. They said, you can't do that. You're just stupid people. We said, fine, we're going to take him home. I have to understand that. So they set some bars, which obviously we were not going to be able to meet. The first was we had to figure out how to pay for it. We did that. The second thing is we had to find other people that would take care of our son. My mother-in-law helped us with that. The third thing they said was, or the next thing they said was, you have to have a doctor that's going to make home calls. No doctor does that anymore. We found one. I still go to it. So the last thing they said was, you got to have some kind of emergency services capability that can help you in an event of a crisis. I went to Tabernacle Rescue Squad, laid it all out. They transported my son to my house. They inspected my house. They helped us set up the ventilators. For a while, there was a poster in the rescue squad with my son's picture on it. With directions to my house. Down the power guy, at that time, that was 76. 76. Power went out all the time, 78. You know, the wind would blow and the extension cord in Atlantic City would come out. So we'd lose power. Every time we lost power, somebody in the squad would call me and ask if we needed help. I defy you to find a contract vendor that will do that. Because they got paid jack to do that. That's why I'm giving you in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, everyone. Second.
about the treatment. I appreciate that. Thank you. Before, just ask before you make public comments about our level of training, because I've had
Bobby.
way back, make comments that you're not exactly appropriate. All right? Because you made a comment without knowing, now you're going to tell me that you shouldn't make the comments until you know. All right? Have a good day.
Okay, Andy's got the back, right?
Ready? Don't be ready.
I'm doing good, doing better. Yeah. Go back to I just went to the
I'll see you, Fran. Have a good night. Touch tips on.
It'll be a while. I gotta get my sport pretty good. Well, I rolled it like 2 years ago when I pushed the green and it started to show. And I re-tore that one and then another one because it was so weak. Oh, I had my worth it. Worth it.
Did you have a whole shoulder replacement?
No. Just arthroscopy. I had the arthroscopy with
Fix your shoulder. I had that, but I was very good shape.
So it
But it wasn't both.
That's what this is so to the bone. That's what she did. She sewed it back to the bone so it would feel it. Because of the weather. Damn.
Oh, well, that's the other